So, staying on model, let's get a quick pose in here. So we're going for a smile. Now when you're doing a smile, it's always nice to move the mouth up a little bit. It helps to give a little bit more tension into the face. Let's kind of push the asymmetry in there. Now we'll take the brows, maybe go for a kind of higher brow expression here. Add some offset to the brow. So I just want to create right now it's kind of a generic smile. Like there's nothing too special about this. And some of the big things that we'll do as we're doing the smile is we'll tend to push the eyes. Now, a question that I'd seen earlier, a thing I mentioned earlier, is that as you're posing out the eyes, you were finding that you kept having to reset these controls, all these fine-tuned controls around the eye, and kind of try to push or remake those eye shapes to keep a character on model. This is something that's pretty common. When I'm posing out the eyes, one thing I try to do is keep, like I said, common things in mind. So, for example, the shape of the eye. When you're thinking of the eye, you can think of the shape as certain lines. And this is very based on the stylistic choices you want to do. So, for example, if you look at a lot of cartoons, looking at 2D is actually a good reference for learning how to do eye shapes. A lot of cartoons, they tend to go with the 3-line method for the eye. And the 3-line method is there's 3 major lines that make up the eye. So for example, if you look at a Disney cartoon, a lot of it is a line like this, a line down here, and then a line there. So you get something like this. Now, that's a much more cartoony eye, much wider, but there's 3 main lines to that. 1, 2, 3. For a more realistic eye, you can do the same thing. It's 1, 2, 3. And that creates a little bit more of a realistic eye shape. Make a miserable person. Now, you don't always have to do 3 lines. You could do more. So for example, some designs you have 4 lines. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. This creates kind of harder eyes. And then you have like the 1-line method where it's basically just a swirl. You see this in Steven Universe a lot. So by looking at these lines, we can kind of create different stylistic choices for the eye and try to keep it on model. So for example, if we want one design to be maybe a long line over here and then a shorter one there, this will be a much different eye design than a very short line versus a long one, like that. So, how does this apply to a 3D model? Well, as we look at the shape of the eyelid and we start kind of refining it, I try to imagine those lines and I want to keep them consistent. So for example, on the front edge of the eye, I might take this one control and just bump it up so we get just a little bit more of a line here, kind of going straight up and down before it goes out to the left. It's very slight. It's not going to be like a straight line, although I could probably push this quite a bit to actually create that effect. So now we get that straight line and then kind of the cut across. But I'm kind of taking that into account. If I do this, I want to keep that somewhat consistent throughout the rest of the shot. So when you're dealing with these controls, that's one of the things I'm looking for in terms of consistency is the relationship of the shapes and the lines of the eye. Now for this one, let's kind of keep it simple for now. So I'm just going to open that up just a little bit here. Same thing here. Open that up just a little bit. This is just something I like to do to help push the directionality of the eye. So wherever the pupils are looking, try to push the eye a little bit more open on that side. It's not always the case. Some people are different where it closes a little bit more on that side. I find this just makes the eyes a little easier to see for most shots. Okay, now let's take the corners. Let's move them up a little bit more to really sell that happiness. So we'll get something like that. And then let's make sure we add in the cheeks. So the cheeks going to be the lower lids coming up. If she's smiling, that's going to push the lower lids up, as well as the skin here. Now this is not going to be a refined pose. I'm just doing this as quickly as I can so we're not spending too much time. And then we can actually add the cheek in here as well. Now, I know I said I wasn't refining these, but one thing I really recommend you guys do, if you're going to do a smile and have a character smile, make sure to thin out the lips. So that comes in two ways. You push them back this way, because as we smile, it stretches our lips, and then roll them in. So make them just a little bit narrower. What that does is it gives the impression that the lips, instead of bunching out and getting wider, they're being pulled and getting thinner. Squash and stretch is the same thing as everything else we're doing in animation. We're using those principles. Let's actually make that smile a little bit bigger. Add a little asymmetry. A good way to add asymmetry to the mouth is just to actually move the whole mouth. Okay, so we've got a very basic expression here. Now let's take this and then see how quickly we can just throw it off model while keeping the base expression the same. So, set another key here. And Blaze, I still don't get rotoscoping. It's like following reference frame by frame. Yes, rotoscoping is copying something exactly, tracing it exactly. So, just, I know I'm jumping around a lot, but it's a good question. So, I'm trying to find image. I have an image on my computer I can use. Actually, let's finish the face stuff because I don't want to bounce around too much, and then we'll jump back into the rotoscoping stuff because it is a good question. So, we've got this smile, and let's say this is our character. This is who we want this character to feel like throughout the shot. Well, as I animate, it can be very easy to lose that. And we lose that in lots of little ways. The big one is the eyes. The single easiest way to lose a character is by accidentally misshaping the eyes into a different style. So, for example, I could take the eyelids and let's reset them back to eye as default. Already we can see that feels like a different character. The eye shape is different. We're changing that eye line. Instead of having that sharp straight up line and then goes across, we're getting a nice smooth curve from the corner all the way out. I could change the lower lid. So maybe kind of push it more. Let's see, which way do I want to push? Either way makes a very different character. Kind of go this way. Really go for those almond eyes. And just that, we get a totally different personality to this character. I think I could raise these corners here, make her a little happier. Wait. So you can see very quickly we can lose the entire model. Everything else is the same, but it doesn't feel like the same character. And as you're as you're animating a shot, this is going to be one of the hardest things to keep consistent, is making sure that the character feels the same. And not just that, but that they feel the same on many different poses, whether they're happy, they're sad, they're angry. It always feels like the same character. So the way we do this is simply paying attention to those kind of stylistic shapes that we're going for. So let me actually bring in my drawing tools here. So in this case, let's say this is the character we want to have as our base. Well, I'm gonna just take some time and analyze, okay, what it is about this character that makes them feel like them. Well, they've got this very strong line right here in the eye that then comes across in a smooth curve. The bottom lid is just a smooth line. There's no sharp angle changes or anything like that. The eye corners. Her eye corners have quite a bit of difference between them. So her outer edge is higher than the inner edge. You look at the brows. Brows are the same thing. Some people, their brows are shaped where you get a big kind of sharp point at the front and then it tapers down like this. Other people, it's much longer and then just a little short line right there. Brow shapes and eye shapes are very unique to a character. So as I'm posing the brow, I'm going to try to pay attention to how do I want this specific line to work. So for example, let's go back to our character here. I could push the brow shape to be a little bit sharper on the outer ends. Now brows is going to be hard to get a huge amount of variation, but you can still do that. You can have the brows kind of come up a little bit more in the center, or sorry, like center of the face. Hey, bonjour, Tiki, ça va bien? So, like little changes like that change the character. So we kind of want to look at, okay, what kind of brow shapes are we getting on this character? In her case, we're getting a kind of line over here, and then just one simple clean line throughout the rest. So, ça va bien? What's that mean? Oh, ça va bien. It's how are you doing? Or ça va bien. It's doing well in French. So we're looking at that. Mouth shape. Mouth shape is very important because you have characters that can be very similar in design, but just the mouth shape changes a lot. So a good example of this, let me actually find this in a cartoon because it's a great example of characters with very close designs, but little things make a huge difference. So let me find this. Oops. Go here. Now forget if there's any good episode that's gonna have this. Okay. This should have it. Let's see. So this is Tangled. Oops, and that's an image, not the film. There we go. So this is the Tangled TV series. Great TV series. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. Beautiful animation. And we have Rapunzel and Cassandra here. Now, if we look at them, they are different. We see that their eye shapes are different, whatnot, but overall they're very close proportionally. And the way they push the difference between the characters is just in some small changes. One of them being the mouth shapes. So, for example, here we've got two characters have a very similar kind of sneer look to it. But the way they're changing it is that Cassandra has more of a pinch to her top lip, whereas Rapunzel has a smooth line to her top lip. Let's see if we can, yeah, so you can see that here. You see that little dip in the top lip there, she always has that. It's always consistent. Whereas you can really see it when she opens her mouth. You feel that kind of line down there. Whereas Rapunzel doesn't have that. It's just smooth all the time. Her top lip is very round. It's a design choice. It's a character difference. And we can apply that to a 3D rig. So for example, if I wanted this character to be, let's say, more Cassandra-like, I can start shaping that lip. And this is the fun part about like taking these rigs. You can really push them quite a bit, even if it's in small ways. You can start to shape that lip to be a little bit different. We start to get a different characteristic to it. So let's just do that top lip there. Maybe push out just a little lower. I don't want it to be too beaky, but something like that. Maybe we'll take those and kind of move them down. So you can see that creates a very different shape. It's slight, but it's in there. And we could exaggerate that a lot if we wanted to. We could even go the other way where the lip might have more of that cat-like motion in there. So we kind of push it up in the middle. These little changes make a different character. So we want to pay attention. What is this character's lip shape? Is it going to be a smooth line? Is it going to be a point in the middle? Do they tend to favor one side more than the other? Little things like that make for a big change in the character. And it's all lines. That's where it really comes down to. It's the lines that you create in the character. So, with that said, let's make a new expression here. I'm going to take the head here, and let's make this character... I have happy. Angry would definitely be a good contrast. Yeah, let's do angry. And I'm going to try to keep the head angle the same. Normally, if you're going to do angry, you would want to tilt the character's head forward. It'll just make the whole face more dynamic. But in this case, I'm going to keep it the same so we can focus entirely on just the shapes of the face. And let's reset this. So we're starting back from 0. Okay. And the Genshin Impact. It's a new game. Ooh, I'll have to check that out. Genshin Impact. I haven't heard of it, but sounds cool. So let's try to push this. So we're gonna go with angry. So angry. Let's just quickly block out the base of this.